Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I had a subscriber ask a question which I will flip in here for you guys. And he wants to know, is it true that teenagers produce so much testosterone that it's hard for them to overtrain? Can they overtrain with them producing the amount of testosterone that they do? Alright, good question. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little bit of crafting. And I wear this hat because it makes me look like a goddamn sexual tyrannosaurus. Bonus points for anybody who knows the answer. Now, short answer to this question, not just no, but hell no. This is a big myth. Yes, teenagers produce a lot of testosterone, but a lot is relative. Meaning, if you don't put any exogenous testosterone into your body, will you have higher levels at any point later in life than you did as a teenager? No. Do teenagers generally have, late teens, not early teens, have more testosterone on average than grown men do? Yes, absolutely true. Are we talking about super physiological levels here? No, not even close. All right, so when you start looking at the ranges for teenagers, they're easily 20 to 50% higher, sometimes even double that of the average healthy male in his 20s. All right, so that seems like a lot of testosterone. Guys are like, wow, that's enormous. It could be somewhere between 20% up to 100% more. That's huge. It is when you're dealing with drug-free people, but as far as people who put testosterone into their body, we're going to get to overtraining with that in a minute. And something I want to make clear here, I've done a video on teenagers and steroids and testosterone, and I do not ever recommend that teenagers use gear. I don't feel that the benefits are worth it for teenagers. I don't think they should be considering it. I don't think any male under the age of 21 should really be contemplating this. I just can't advise that. I think it's a bad idea. I'm against the idea personally. But that doesn't mean we can't discuss the actual topics. All right, so what sort of testosterone levels does someone have to put into their body in order to surpass what teenagers have, to reach like the highest levels teenagers ever see? And I'm going to say, on average, guys who use like 250 milligrams, a single amp of like Sustanon or Testcipionate or whatever, pharmaceutical grade, you know, not this underground lab stuff, unless it's 100% dose. Pharmaceutical grade 1 amp of that stuff every week, which is about 250 milligrams, will put them at the very high end, if not slightly above, what teenagers with the highest levels peak at. So basically, you're at ultra high teenage levels, if not slightly above, if that's what you use, 250 milligrams. Most TRT prescriptions are about half that, right? So one of those amps lasts 2 weeks. People think of people who use these drugs, they're used to sometimes conservative users because of decades ago. Guys in the 70s and 80s didn't use a lot, and anything from sports to bodybuilding. Guys today use a lot more, a hell of a lot more. So what do we mean? Let's just use YouTubers. Let's go with YouTubers who we have self-admitted doses of. Remember, before I discussed Jerry Ward's link, and he tried to deny the IGF-1 he linked me, so that I changed the number or whatever, but he didn't deny the other. He didn't deny the amount of gear he was on. It was 2,000 milligrams. All right, so if 250 will put someone at the highest end a teenager could be, if not slightly above, Jerry was using 8 times that amount. That means he had it 8 to 10 times the amount of testosterone a teenager produces. How about Rich Piana? Rich Piana published a stat, went up to 4.5 grams. All right, that's over twice what Jerry was taking. So we're talking about 25, roughly, approximately 25 times what a teenager is even going to be capable of producing. That's what Rich Piana had in his body. 25 times. Boston Lloyd admitted to crazy things that probably aren't even true, up to 13,000 milligrams. I don't even want to do the math on that because that's something like 80 times. Something like 80 times what a teenager could produce. You guys see the problem here? Guys who've admitted doses on YouTube we can think of there who are fairly somewhat popular fitness YouTubers, the lowest you see a guy admitting to is 2,000. That's 8 times what a teenager For the record, there are alleged rumors that I use about 300 milligrams. I will neither confirm nor deny that. So still slightly above what a teenager would use or would have in their body. So here's the question we come to. If these guys, Jerry Ward, the lowest one out of there, 8 to 10 times what a teenager could produce. Is Jerry Ward capable of overtraining? Are guys on steroids capable of overtraining? Of course they are. Is it harder for them to overtrain? Of course it is. They have drugs that facilitate faster recovery. You have drugs that facilitate higher work capacity. Now, here's the kicker with that. That's limited. It is not absolute. They can't just train unlimitedly. And here's the thing you're going to notice with these guys. When guys first go on a given amount of gear, their recovery goes through the roof. They can double or triple the amount of work they were doing, the tonnages and everything, the total reps, sets, everything, right? They can almost triple what they were doing without feeling overtraining and just keep progressing, getting bigger, stronger week after week, right? Everyone's seen it. But here's the problem. Recovery is also an issue of tonnage on the body, load on the body, how much work the body's doing. These substances not only improve recovery, they also over time increase work capacity and strength. And that strength comes with size. So as someone on gear gets bigger and stronger, their training itself, because of the extra tonnages they are putting in, starts to catch pace with the increased recovery. And they actually reach a point, usually within a few months, to where they are now capable, because of the exercise and strength and work capacity, they are capable of generating workloads in the gym in the same amount of time period per workout that they used to recover from because of the drugs that they can't recover from. Because that's the thing. You get bigger and stronger on the drugs. When you're bigger and stronger, you gain the ability to beat your body up more. You gain the ability to recruit more muscle fiber, more total muscle fiber recruitment, lift more tonnage, put more micro-tearing on things, load the bones up heavier, load your peripheral nervous system up heavier. Well, that starts hammering your recovery very quickly. So what ends up happening, once they stay on a certain amount, because they're now subjecting themselves to greater tonnages and superior workloads, they start losing the ability to recover faster. They very quickly find that their recovery starts coming back down to what it was in terms of recovery time from a similar workout, because of all the heavier tonnages. The similar workout starts taking them the same amount of time to recover from as it did when they were drug-free. That's the kicker. Yes, they are gaining recovery ability still. Of course they are. But they're using up that recovery ability with the extra weights and tonnage. They're capable of doing more work now. So they end up using up that extra recovery ability. So what you oftentimes find is that a workout with lighter weights and less tonnage used to take them 36 hours to recover from. At first they could recover in 12 hours. Then as they get stronger, 20 hours. Then 30. Then eventually you get to the point where it takes them 36 hours to recover from it, the same as it did before. See the problem? It's not limitless recovery. They don't get to just keep recovering more and more. Their strength and their muscle mass will eventually surpass, or at least catch, the extra recovery ability they're getting, in which case if they want to recover faster again, they have to up the dose. Many do. That's how they keep training with these ultra high workloads year after year. They just increase the dose. But if they don't, they will reach that homeostasis to where they're no longer really getting the benefit. They are, but they aren't. They would still recover faster if they use the same little workloads they were before. If they don't increase anything, reps, sets, weight, nothing over what they did when they were drug-free, yeah, sure, their recovery will be much, much better. But if they actually try to progress and do more work, that extra work will eventually get them to the point where it takes the same amount of time to recover. So they lose the extra recovery time. So in the end, it kind of balances out. But here's the thing. You're talking about guys on enormous amounts. Teenagers have, more than an adult, but we're not talking enough to make a massive difference. And that's one of the big myths that's thrown out there. Oh, teenagers shouldn't bother with these drugs because their testosterone levels are so high they won't benefit. Of course they would benefit. If you have double the amount an adult male has, but you could suddenly increase the amount you have another threefold, of course you're going to benefit. but it's also more harmful to teenagers, and that's why I don't recommend they use it. Of course, there's benefits, but they already have a bit of an edge because of their age, because of their recovery and everything. They do recover faster. Of course they do. All you guys remember being young, how fast you bounced back from things in your teens, how virile you were. You know, it seemed like you didn't get tired as easy. You didn't get beat up as much from training. Sure, and it's because of the hormone levels and everything, and just being younger. But is it limitless? Is it going to be on par with a drug user? Oh, not even close. So if drug users can overtrain, why can't teenagers overtrain? Of course they can, and they do. In fact, teenagers are notorious for overtraining. Do you know why? Because teenagers tend to throw themselves into things wholeheartedly without considering the consequences and without thinking plans through. As teenagers usually are bad at risk-reward analysis. And that's not an insult. Every one of us were teenagers at one time, and we all sucked at it then too, because that part of their brain isn't fully developed. There's nothing bad about that. That's called part of growing up, guys. But accordingly, they don't think through oftentimes the long-term plans of their workouts. So teenagers tend to just keep pushing and not think of consequences. They only think of how fast can I get to something. I'm so impatient, I'm ready. You know, teenagers are ready to grow up. They're ready to do everything so fast. That's just part of being a teenager. That's part of it. You want to do everything in a hurry. So they tend to not deload. They tend to not take their time. They tend to not milk their gains. So teenagers are notorious for pushing so hard that they overtrain and not backing down until they either hurt themselves or they overtrain. That's normal for teenagers. That's how they are. We were all like that. We all had bad judgment as teenagers. That's just part of being one. So can teenagers overtrain? Yes. And they do. Teenagers overtrain all the time. It's just part of the teenage mindset. And you know what? That's okay. Hopefully a lot of them learn from that. You know, they're younger and they think they're invincible, and then they find out in the weight room they're not. Until when they do overtrain, do overreach, do start having problems from their training, maybe overuse injuries, it can become a learning experience for them. Because teenagers, while they seem stupid to a lot of adults sometimes because they don't even think anything through, teenagers are also, their minds are a lot more flexible in certain ways. They're capable of learning things pretty quick. And as soon as they get knocked on the head by something, teenagers tend to, oh, yeah, well, that was a bad idea. Let me rethink that. So that's exactly what happens with a lot of them. A lot of teenagers overtrain, and then once they figure out, well, wait a minute, that was dumb. I'm not going to do that again. They tend to learn lessons fairly well. Again, that's just part of being a teenager also. Very poor risk-reward analysis, but they learn quickly. So that being said, fortunately, many of them overtrain, but they learn a lesson from it, and that becomes a lesson that they carry with them later in life. As long as they don't get too serious of injuries, that it stops their training, many of them learn valuable lessons from that, and they end up being better for it in the long term. It's kind of a trial by fire. Teenagers have to learn things the hard way, but they do learn. Sometimes they learn better than adults do. So I don't want them to think that I'm knocking them with the other statements that I said. So, of course, teenagers can overtrain. Their testosterone helps a little bit, but it's certainly not going to stop them from overtraining. It doesn't even stop people with 8 to 10 times the amount in their system from being able to overtrain. They can still overtrain. It's just it takes a lot more work to do it for someone with ultra-high hormone levels. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.